So, I want to talk about artificial intelligence. There's a big craze about it lately in the world markets, and it is an amazing technology. But thinking more esoterically about it, where you've had, you know, in in the sort of conspiracy theories field or space, that artificial intelligence is a trap. Okay, it's a trap that's meant to end up destroying the human race or end up subjugating or disadvantaging the human race. To me, I mean, I've thought about this, and it is a concern that I share or that I have now because why would you need to create an artificial being, right? Because the term is artificial intelligence, but actually, I mean, I don't see the difference between intelligence and consciousness. All right, I think usually when people talk about artificial intelligence, they're thinking of intelligence with respect to the human being and the artificial version of that. Okay, whereas to me, I mean, consciousness itself is intelligence, and therefore things like even rocks and elements and molecules are intelligent just because they're conscious. Um, this is because the fact that they are conscious is shown in the way they interact with reality and in the way that reality interacts with them. The fact that a rock can break when impacted upon by relevant forces means or shows or exhibits its intelligence in its reaction to those forces, right? And this applies to every other sort of living thing and non living thing. So, going back to the question, when you create an artificial intelligence as we understand it, a robot, not I'm not even just talking an embodied robot or even a software robot like an agent. Okay, why would you do that? Because what you're doing is you're creating an artificial being, because it is artificially conscious. It is not conscious in the way that um, that everything else is conscious. It is conscious as a creation of a creation. So it's a derivative of a derivative, right? Us as human beings, we do not create anything. We co-create. We, I would even argue, recreate, because we are ignorant in our intelligence. Okay, so therefore our creations are imperfect. All right. So we are now attempting to create a being that will be a derivative of our creation. I mean, this is regardless of the fact that it will be more powerful in doing everything. It's still created out of ignorance, whereas us human beings, we're created out of out of complete objectivity, complete perfection. God is perfect. The source God is perfect. The energies, we are connected to Him, right? We share in the consciousness. Whereas these machines that will end up one day being robots, even if they may be intelligent and effective and useful and whatnot, they are not connected to the systems that we are connected to. So therefore, they are inherently worse than us, regardless of how strong or powerful or effective they are. Um, Even more importantly, they're even more dangerous because regardless of how much information they have and knowledge they have and capability to assess and analyze and implement they are destined and they are limited to a higher level of ignorance than human beings by virtue of the fact that they are not created like us and every other living and non-living thing to the source God, right? That function of information assessing, that function to have a perspective of reality isn't connected, even though their raw materials are conscious, right? They're made out of metals, and metals are conscious because metals exist, right? To exist is to be conscious. But these intelligences don't really exist, do they? I mean, they are essentially what they are an amalgamation of analyses and aggregations of probability, you know, and sort of like a culmination of quantitative and maybe even qualitative analyses of processes and factors and whatnot. That's what they are. That is what they are. They don't really have anything of themselves like humans do. We do that, but we do that also taking into consideration who we are. Now, our reason is we want these things to serve us. We're creating them to become our slaves. That's essentially why we're creating them. And that is not a good reason to create these things. But also, I mean, if you even consider the fact that we don't even ever act together as human beings, you know, in terms of our relationships, our politics, right? The way we engage with the planet, with the world, with reality. We our entire system of existence is ignorant, right? There's a lot we don't understand about a lot. Okay? And I think us creating these powerful beings from that level of ignorance is a recipe for disaster. Especially if you consider how these things are created. They are created, right, by feeding them with the information we have. So essentially, we have to feed them our ignorance. We are creating self thinking beings that will see themselves, when smart enough, as separate from us and as different from us. Okay? And to do that, they, their sustenance is going to be our ignorance. Our ignorance is going to be what births them. How is that a good thing? How you're birthing a super powerful being from ignorance. That being has to be ignorant. There's just no other way about it. And from ignorance comes everything negative. I don't know, guys. I mean, I think so far what I've said can be debunked or can be argued against. You know, I mean, these things can become these things being, you know, artificial intelligence, software robots can become smart enough to be self-conscious and self-aware and so on. But then for me, then it goes back to maybe a rephrasing of the question. Why would we create another species of being, especially one that can be as powerful as these sort of artificial intelligence robots or software can be? I mean, if you look at our reasoning for wanting to create them, that should be a red flag.